The year is 1887. The town is Rahway, New Jersey. Quiet town life, carriage factories, daily routines, and steady rhythm. Streets lined with modest homes, budding spring trees. But on the morning of March 25th, tranquility was shattered. A discovery would haunt the community for decades, a story whispered across generations. A young woman found lifeless by the roadside. Identity unknown. Cause of death. A dark puzzle. She became known as the Rahway Girl. Early that morning, under a cool spring sky, two men walked Central Avenue. They were laborers, used to the route. Something was out of place. Near the Pennsylvania Railroad tracks, something lay in the ditch. A figure, still and silent. As they drew closer, the truth became clear. The body of a young woman, dressed respectably but belongings scattered. The men were the first unwilling witnesses. They rushed to alert local authorities. News spread through Rahway like a chilling wind. Constable Charles T. Moore arrived, a man of the law, unprepared for this. The woman lay partially submerged in muddy water, her face bruised, fine clothing torn and soiled. It was no accident. A crime had been committed, a life violently taken. The constable and men secured the area, faces grim. This account will follow known facts. We will move through the investigation step by step. We will examine evidence through 1887 forensics, police reports, witness statements, newspaper articles that shape the public's understanding of this tragedy. Our purpose? Reconstruct the timeline and methods used by investigators. We will do so respectfully. To honor the unnamed woman and tell her forensic tale. Table of contents. The morning of March 25th. The first responders. A scene of violence. The day began like any other Friday in late March. A cool, damp air hung over the town of Rahway. The sky was a pale, washed-out gray. Along Central Avenue, a dirt road beside the Pennsylvania Railroad, the town was slowly waking. Distant train whistles mixed with chirping birds. It was on this quiet stretch, known as Bloodgood's Pond, that the day would change. The spot was isolated. A path used by workers and travelers, not a busy thoroughfare. The ground was soft and muddy, holding footprints. Two men, Gilbert, Charles Post, walking toward the Randolph Brickyards. A familiar, routine journey. They walked with a steady pace, conversation likely about the day's work. Near the railroad crossing, their eyes caught something in the ditch. At first, it looked like a bundle of rags, but drawing closer, the shape became clear. It was not debris, it was a human form. The figure was a woman, her dark dress soaked and disheveled. A small fashionable hat lay half submerged nearby. The men stood frozen, the morning filled with silent horror. They were laborers, not doctors or police, but they knew death when they saw it. The scene was wrong. The stillness of the body, the disarray of her clothing, the location of discovery. They knew they had to act and report it. The Post brothers turned and hurried back toward town. Word would travel from house to house, from shop to shop, carried on whispers and worried glances. The peace of Rahway was about to be broken. The story of the unnamed woman had begun. The Post brothers were the first unwilling narrators, their routine walk now the opening chapter of a dark mystery. The alarm was raised with a sense of urgency befitting the grim discovery. The Post brothers quickly found their way to the authorities, their report sending a jolt through the local constabulary. Justice of the Peace Freeman E. Clarkson was the first officially dispatched. Constable Charles T. Moore arrived. County physician Dr. H. M. Smith joined them. They gathered their wits and proceeded with solemn purpose. Upon arriving, they saw the same horrific sight that had greeted the Post brothers. The young woman lay on her back in the ditch, head and shoulders submerged in about 6 inches of muddy water. Her body looked placed there, not the result of an accidental fall. Constable Moore immediately took charge of securing the area. He instructed the small crowd to keep their distance. Preserving the scene, as understood at the time, was crucial. The evidence of a desperate struggle was all around the victim. The muddy ground surrounding the ditch was trampled and disturbed. Constable Moore observed a man's prints, larger and deeper than a woman's. The tracks led from the road to the ditch and back again. Signs suggested an assailant dragged or carried his victim to the water's edge. Her own smaller footprints were obscured. She likely wasn't on her feet at the end. A search revealed the woman's belongings, scattered as if dropped in a frantic rush. A small, empty alligator skin purse, a stylish hat, crushed and soiled, a pair of gloves, a clean handkerchief, a small basket containing a bottle of milk and a package of crackers. These mundane items felt out of place, a journey interrupted. Dr. Smith's examination revealed more about the attack. He determined multiple blunt force injuries to her head and face. More sinister were marks on her throat. He concluded strangulation, then the body placed face down in the water. It was a crime of brutal rage and cold calculation. Officials decided to move the body from the scene. A wagon arrived. The remains were carefully lifted from the muddy ditch. She was transported to the Rahway morgue for a full autopsy. A heavy silence fell as her body was taken away. Central Avenue was quiet again, now marked by tragedy. The investigation into the murder of the Rahway Girl began with the methods available in 1887. This was an era before fingerprinting, before DNA analysis. Detectives and constables relied on different tools: keen observation, witness interviews, and basic deductive reasoning. Their first step was to canvass the area. Officers were dispatched to speak with residents. They questioned railroad workers. They interviewed hotel clerks, livery stable owners. Physical evidence was carefully examined. The woman's clothing was laid out and inspected for maker's labels, laundry marks. The empty alligator skin purse was scrutinized. The basket, milk, and crackers were a perplexing clue. Where had she purchased these items? Investigators hoped a local shopkeeper might recognize her as a customer. She wore a stylish brown cashmere dress, a matching walking jacket trimmed with velvet, and high-buttoned shoes. They suggested a woman of some means. The quality of the fabric led police to believe she was not from Rahway. She was likely a visitor, traveling through the area on the nearby Pennsylvania Railroad. The contents of her stomach provided a crucial timeline. He found partially digested food that corresponded with the crackers and the milk. This indicated that she had likely consumed them shortly before her death. This small but vital detail allowed investigators to estimate her time of death as sometime late on the evening of March 24th. The attack had occurred under the cover of darkness. The footprints found in the mud were another critical piece of evidence. Constable Moore had carefully measured and sketched the man's footprints. They were large. The depth of the impressions confirmed he had been carrying a heavy weight, presumably the victim's body. The footprints led away from the scene, but they quickly became lost on the harder, more traveled surface. The trail went cold almost as soon as it began. The most pressing task for the investigators was to identify the victim. The police sent out detailed descriptions of the woman to neighboring towns, New York, Philadelphia. She was described as being around 20 years old, fair complexion, light brown hair, and delicate features. One of her most distinguishing features was her teeth. They were noted as being particularly beautiful and well cared for. These details were published in newspapers, accompanied by artists' sketches based on the descriptions provided by the coroner. The public was invited to view the body at the Rahway morgue. Hundreds of curious and concerned citizens filed past the slab where her body lay, hoping to provide a name to the face. While many people came, and many theories were offered, no one who saw her could definitively say who she was. This lack of identification became the central frustration of the entire investigation. Days turned into a week, and she remained nameless. The police were at a standstill. The Rahway Girl was a ghost, her past as silent and unknown as her future had been stolen. In 1887, the field of forensic photography was still in its early stages. The decision was made to photograph the scene and the victim. A photographer would have used a large wooden box camera mounted on a heavy tripod. The process was slow and deliberate. Glass plates were used instead of film. Each photograph required careful composition, precise focusing, and a long exposure time. The next crucial step was to photograph the victim herself. The body was taken to the morgue. where it was prepared for the post-mortem photograph. The goal was to create an image that was clear and recognizable. The resulting image of the Rahway Girl was both tragic and vital. The photograph captured a sense of her youth, but it could not hide the slight swelling and bruising that hinted at the violence she had endured. Copies were made and distributed. The press played a significant role. Some newspapers hired artists to create engravings or sketches from the photograph. These illustrations were then printed on the front pages. It fueled public interest and generated a flood of new leads. Unfortunately, in every instance, the hope was followed by disappointment. The gruesome discovery sent a palpable wave of fear through the quiet community of Rahway. Doors once left unlocked were now bolted shut. A sense of unease settled over the town. Everyone had a theory. Some believed the killer was a local resident. Others thought it was a transient. Local officials found themselves under immense pressure to solve a baffling crime and reassure a frightened public. Central Avenue became a place to avoid after dark. It was forever marked as the murder site. Despite exhaustive efforts, the case reached an impasse. None could provide the one crucial piece of information: her name. The Rahway Girl was never identified. Her murderer was never brought to justice. From history's vantage, the story is defined by its limitations: the absence of modern forensic techniques, fingerprinting, DNA analysis. The Rahway mystery became local folklore, a cautionary tale whispered through generations. Ultimately, the Rahway Girl rests in a grave marked unknown, her true name lost to time. Her story is a somber reminder of countless unnamed victims. The forensic tale offers no resolution, but commands our respect and remembrance. We are left not with answers, but with a profound sense of loss. For the young woman whose journey ended so brutally on a lonely road in Rahway, her memory is preserved not by a name on a headstone, but by the enduring enigma of her unsolved case.